Hello, all. Welcome back to another podcast series of Koot. We regularly discuss with various GCC leaders in discussing about technology, decision making, and AI. And today, I'm delighted to welcome Shalini, who leads GCC for Planview. And Planview is a planning software. I think Shalini will explain in detail, which works with some of the world's largest enterprises on their strategic moves. Very interesting about the plan view on the GCC, what Shalini heading. They're doing the significant part of the R&D work in India through the GCC. And today we are going to go in depth and understanding about how she thinks through it, how the AI is planning a critical role in the whole journey, and what the GCC is playing a critical role again, right? And I'm pretty excited to talk to Shalini and learn a lot about how she thinks, and I'm sure all of you will do. So without too much of ado, I will welcome Shalini into the show. And hi, Shalini. Please welcome to our show.
Hello, Shankar. Thank you. Happy to be here and looking forward to our conversation.
Well, thanks, Shalini. Shalini, I made a very simple brief. When I heard about a company of the size of Planview doing around 600 million revenue, and doing a significant portion of R&D in India, GCC, is not a small feat, right? So I would like to start with how did it happen, right? Probably you can start with your background and then how did Planview started and how is all happened, Shalini?
Sure. My background is I've always been in product side of the world all my career. Largely, a big chunk of my career was in focused on investment banking, capital markets, wealth management, these domain. Very exciting times and evolution of financial systems and technology that I have witnessed and have been part of. Which gave me the muscle of what does it mean to build truly resilient enterprise grade systems that processes, one of the systems that we used to manage part of my earlier career is, it processes about $10 trillion a day. So that size and scale resilience was something which was very deeply embedded in my product and technology DNA. And it also gave me a very, very deep understanding and appreciation of domain combined with technology, which is probably the most powerful secret sauce for personal, professional, organizational success. So, as I stepped out of my previous organization, one of the interesting things that I wanted to further experience was go back to the mode of building something again from scratch, which is what led me to Planview. Planview was looking to expand its India presence as a strategy through 2021, 22, when this business was truly booming during the COVID era. There was a huge realization for this organization that we need a very focused India strategy on both fronts. One is from a talent standpoint. Second is building an operational hub, which really brings together the whole organization together. And third was tapping into the India market. So that was an exciting remit. And the fact that this is an organization which has grown, it has a lot of pedigree in the market, but it has grown through a host of inorganic acquisition-based growth. So this was probably one of the first largest organic growth build out, and that too in a new country. As that was happening, it was very interesting to see how not just the market was changing through 22 to 24 and 25. In those 3 years, probably three things happened for us. One was we started growing our India organization using the three dimensions. One was how do you optimize all the broader flows, products. Second is how do you globalize, because we were truly serving customers across tons of countries. So how do you create a global operating model to service and support? And third was how do you build an innovation-based engine while doing all of this profitably? I think that was a most important statement. So that growth was happening. And then we were looking at market going up and down through 23, 24. Geopolitics took over. It continues to happen. And through all of this, AI came on board, I think late 2023, which changed the conversation in technology. So I think while we had a small nucleus of Planview India through an acquisition, but the real origin and scale up really happened from 22, 23 onwards. And we have seen all these three dimensions continuously growing. But there was a very deliberate and intentional strategy to not just take a staggered growth mode or slow growth mode, but really go big bang and a burst growth. So, which means we did a lot of intense exercise across the executive leadership team. I had the partnership of all my executive leadership team, the sponsorship of the CEO, to look at what makes sense to really optimize, centralize, and transform into India across every function, every geography, every product, every technology, not just with the lens of what is today. It's not just a like for like shift, but really what do you need in a future state? Like even simple examples such as accounting process. Because we had acquired through multiple geographies, we actually were running two gap methodologies in terms of our accounting. So we had to look at that as a lever, which does not mean that you just take a function from an existing region and run it here, but really optimize. So the reason I'm bringing a function, an example of an accounting and not just R&D is we took this lens in every single function, not just tech. It's very natural for a lot of GCCs to look at either a tech or an ops, but we took a 360-degree view. So when we did that, we did a lot of pre-work and we also had our portfolio investor team really helping us out. TPGs are one of the primary investors. As we did that, we said, once you pull the plug, we will give it a very contained time frame, and we just keep doing it in a burst mode. That's what we did. So the idea was to really scale up the entire headcount within like 4 months. And overall horizon was 6 months. Within 6 months, we had to bump up the headcount. We had to set up the whole facility. We had to transition work. We had to transform the workforce either out into other areas or out of the organization, etc. Broadly, globally, we had to re-communicate the entire operating model. All of this while not dropping a single point on the customer service satisfaction or on the roadmap. So it was a very intense period, the first 6 months. I think post that, the year two has been a lot more of stabilization, maturing, really focus on churning out delivery, because when you get your delivery machinery strong, then you can start thinking about what more. So year one was this burst growth plus a lot of change management across the organization, because none of this is easy for either India entity or the rest of the world. Year two was we started looking at truly maturing, identifying the operating metrics, how to integrate in a way that there is global measures and not just an India-based measure. And year three, we started talking about how do we change some of the existing workflows? How do we start bringing in newer technologies? So I think the journey is still on. So I'll maybe take a pause there. But since we took that intentional approach, Shankar, and even within R&D, I think I have definitely a lot to share. Kudos to the larger organization, because when we took the conversation of it's not just people being transformed, it's not just moving certain parts of the work. Let's look at complete products being carved out. So which essentially meant about 30% of the business from a product end-to-end product standpoint, we actually run out of India. And the rest of it, we have an extended support model across two locations, India continuing to be a very strategic one. Then from a growth standpoint, where we started building out our data science teams to really push the AI offering, again, India had one of the largest teams. So if you really look at it, we were on all the three horizons. It was not just a matter of, okay, 30%, 40% headcount. We really took an intentional approach. And at this point, we are saying that it's no longer about just moving bodies. Let us look at what more can we do with what we have, number one. Number two, and this is not just India, this is a larger organization prerogative. Number two, let's truly rationalize what we have. For example, one of the things in the R&D that I kind of personally pushed was we had a portfolio of products, and in various stages of life cycle. You have some in inception or growth, some truly mature with the product market fit, and some probably should be more in a sustained mode, and some probably really to be sunset. We had all the flavors, right? And a lot of this long tail products were with India. So one of the motions that we pushed for is, do we really need to spend time and bandwidth and energy in the sunset products, but without impacting the retention, without impacting the revenue? So I started working in partnership with a third party to look at what could be a co-innovation model. So I think we've been very intentional, I think is the word, focused, and continuously looking for ways to optimize, not just grow by headcount. So that's been the model.
No, thanks a lot, Shalini, for a very detailed answer. In fact, you preempted a lot of the other question which I would like to ask, right? So as I'm thinking through, Shalini, on some of the aspect what you mentioned, right? Probably I will think again, like, the R&D of 50%, 60% couldn't have happened on its own, right?
Yeah.
Because Planview is working with some of the world's largest companies as well as even the government on the strategic planning aspect, right? Which is not the core of some of the SaaS products in India, right? I think India has not been known for especially the tech product building. So considering that in the backdrop, how do you push? Or if I not even say push, because many GCC leaders don't agree, hey, this is not the GCC pushing, but it's a overall organization doing, right? But how do you convince the leaders saying that, hey, our team can do it, we have the skill set, no, Plan View, India can do it, right? Forget even the GCC word, right? How did it happen, Shalini? Again, it may not happen by accident. It might have, do a proper plan, Shalini. Could you take it through a little bit of, what I say, on an on-ground experience with the, anecdotes, Shalini?
I think there is no easy answer for this, Shankar, and you'll hear probably the same thing from any of my GCC friends. It requires all the three vectors to be successful. One is true executive alignment and support at the top. Second is competence of your own teams as you're growing. Third is continuously aligning towards what is valuable for the business. All the three need to happen. So, for example, let's say there is alignment, everybody agrees this has to be strategy, but we end up having a team which is not an A-grade team. We end up having not a structured approach to delivery. We end up having folks who do not have a point of view or contribute to conversations globally. We end up having teams which have a broken communication model. No amount of top down will be enough.
Got it.
Okay, let's say we have one of the strongest teams, but there is not enough executive alignment at the top or intention. Then you're constantly in a proving, justifying mode,
Got it.
which could lead to an environment of um,
Some people got frustrated and move on.
kind of fatigue of change, some environmental frustration, as you rightly said, some talent attrition challenges, drop in the overall throughput from an energy and spirit standpoint. A lot of that could happen. Then in the middle of all of this, there's a lot of changes happening. There's not Planview is not isolated, or Planview India is not isolated. The world is changing, market is changing, customers are changing, our business is getting affected. Wars are happening at some of our where some of our teams are located, like Israel, etc. Through all of this, if you're stuck between number one and number two and not constantly aligning to what business needs and constantly
Got it.
pivoting and expecting everything to be stable, and we are an island, you created a team, leave me alone, I'll keep delivering PI on PI, doesn't work. So it is a beautiful dance of leadership to the teams, to the world, always understanding that you're part of a larger world, but you have to focus on continuously creating identity for yourself. I think it's an art and a science, and any of these dimensions falling apart will not lead to a fully successful outcome. Having said that, It'll never be static. Things keep moving up and down. So I think agility and constantly the leadership team, especially on the GC side of the house, constantly tracking signals from noise and keeping the conversation both real but aspirational towards business, very important. Very important. And all of this cannot happen if you have a team which is not competent.
Superb, superb, Shalini. Sure. No, our primary discussion point of this podcast is that well, the AI as a strategic lever, right? There are many GCCs in India. I think we have cutting edge companies from NVIDIA to other, but predominant of other GCCs are in the BFSI healthcare. They consume AI a lot, right? Because they are not a AI product that the people don't use. I think their customers don't use AI, but in Planview's case, it's a software product, right? So how do you think of using AI as a leverage, right? In Planview, can you give some ringside view?
I think we are certainly following a lot of industry frameworks. I mean, I cannot claim that we are doing something completely out of the ordinary. We are leveraging AI across three dimensions. One is AI for Planview, which is internal optimization and acceleration. Second is AI in our existing products, which is, how do you build in-app AI experiences so that our customers that are already using Planview, how do they have accelerated and better enhanced experiences via AI, experienced capabilities. Third is a completely AI related offerings for our customers, which is beyond just what is inside our current feature set of products, but really helping customers reimagine their workflows in the portfolio management space. So we are doing across all the three dimensions. Especially external facing AI, we have launched an offering called Anvi, which brings um, all of these capabilities together through both the chat experience, in-app experience, and agentic experience. And we're both consumer and producer of AI, like many organizations, and both are in different stages of the journey. I think the speed at which the evolution of what AI can do is so rapid. But at the same time, as you would have heard from many, many organizations, there is an anchor called compliance and regulation. There is an anchor called how much is this enterprise grade safe and secure and reliable. And then there is an anchor of how costly is it to really happen, all of this. Maybe we are in experimentation mode. Once we go production, can we really sustain? So all of this is happening in both in Planview and with all our customers that we are discussing with. I think we have taken a very specific approach in Planview as we are putting our AI capabilities for the customers, which is look at a verticalized, wholly focused on domain, which is portfolio management domain specific AI that we would offer, so that it is not just a studio for customers to come and build, but really sets you up as a customer in best in class of portfolio management capabilities through agents. So I think that's an approach. Second is as we do this, this is not about just doing within Planview environment, but really opening it up to build with customers agentic framework. And third is we are obviously have opened this out to our partner ecosystem. So between customers and partners, how do they leverage this whole data layer that we bring in, which is not just about Planview systems, but also we are connected to 60 to 70 other systems of record across the industry. And we leverage all of that plus our 40 years of portfolio management core domain experience built into this intelligence. How does that become the digital, not just assistant, but almost a co-worker for you, is the mode that we are in.
Superb, Shalini. So for many of the boardrooms now, the AI discussion has gone from experimentations or proof of concept to real implementation, right? I think you already mentioned about AI coworker. So, could you give some of the example where it really become live, right? Where you have some AI coworker which is doing the heavy lifting rather than being on the co-pilot mode or on assisting mode.
BFSI, I think, is a sector which is truly pushing that mode a lot more. I think BFSI has always been a fairly progressive adopter of new tech. So we see that even in Planview's customer base. While the efficiency seems to be a driver in most cases, people have still not gone into the mode of, I will leverage this to generate more revenue, because these are all traditional organizations. They're not what you call AI native, right? AI native is somebody who starts up from day zero as a native organization. So traditional organizations, BFSI is a very leading sector. See, AI again, you always had classic AI, which is wherever you had tons of data, you always looked at AI as a ML probably as a technology to build a lot more analytics. And that exists. So people are building on top of that through AI. When you talk of generative AI and really generative AI becoming agentic to take decisions, I think that's the last step is where we still see a lot of human in, not just in the loop, but human almost in the lead conversation. Um, as all of this is happening, there are some real limitations too. How do you handle structured data? How do you handle personalization without losing enterprise value? How do you make sure the existing verification workflows exist? So I think the organizations or our customer organizations are going through those conversations to see which workflows should remain as it is, which workflows can I really change, etc. Right? So I think the way I see it is in the large existing traditional businesses, you again see an ecosystem of some are leaders in adopting, probably the IT part of the house, probably marketing and customer support parts of the house who are really adopting this to drive better customer experiences and drive efficiency. Of course, in the engineering side of the house, while there is a lot of interest in adopting it and there is adoption, but I think the focus is a lot more on how do you create really sturdy evals, and how do you build enough secure and reliable systems around it. I think is the big focus. Now, when you look at again industries such as pharma, etc., so highly regulated, we see interest in leveraging AI to probably still analyze, but not really be autonomous or agentic from an autonomous standpoint. Um, but when you look at high tech, I think there is a lot more, or even e-commerce. I think there's a lot more need because they've already been on that journey. If you really think of retail and others, so I
The
think
acceptance rate is very high.
industry to industry, there's been different adoption curves. But even within organizations, there's always leaders and then fast followers. Like, for example, we ourselves look at this not just as an efficiency level. We look at this as how does this create more velocity in our own roadmap in building out things to the market. It's not about just cutting cost. Or how does this help create more revenue? How does this help optimize our sales and marketing experience? So I think uh, more and more you tie back to business goals and focus on outcomes would be the biggest shift I see. Second is as clearly industries such as BFSI who are really adopting this. Third is a big focus on building all the scaffolding around AI, which is evals, your validation layer, your security layer, compliance layer. I think that's a big focus. I see that.
Shalini, you touched upon very important points. So probably say that I want to pick up one area to use AI extensively, right? There are multiple layers you need to touch, whether the data quality to, I think the information security to various other things, right? So how do you pick which is a low-hanging fruit, right? Is there any decision making you do, right? Hey, this is the area, or do you have any benchmark on the expected ROI out of it? How do you think through? Because now people use AI for everything, right? I think everything can be done through AI. That's a level of thought. But the investment is also limited. Sorry, yeah.
No, I mean AI can be used for everything is a larger dimension, Shankar, but people are being very pragmatic, okay? People are being pragmatic to not just deploy, but also look at can a simple automation help here versus deploying agents, okay? So I think let's not kid ourselves by saying people are just using it blindly. It's not. Now, if you had a conversation about ROI, I think that's an evolving topic, which is why I said I see the goals of what will you do with leveraging AI itself is changing. I talked about three goals in our own organization, right? One is cost efficiency, second is create more velocity, and third is, build more revenue generating operations. So each organization is picking and seeing what their business goals are in their strategies, how much of that can be either accelerated or taken over by AI. That's how I think people are starting to do it, all the mature businesses. But you always have a lot of AI native organizations, either newer startups or newer organizations who think about this very differently, because for them AI is the way they by default operate,
Correct.
right? You think of Anthropic, you think of any of the latest organizations, they naturally look at AI as the only way they live. Then they're adding more in terms of how do I create scaffolding. So I think let's not paint everybody or every
Got
organization
it.
same color. But ROI, I think the math has not changed much. It's still top line, it's still bottom line. Top line is you have a core business. Is that business shifting? Is that business completely evolving? Or some of the business use cases are actually getting wiped out by AI? I think there the top line conversation will change. Bottom line, more and more efficiency through AI is a very common topic.
Sure, Shalini. But with, okay, probably the ROA part you mentioned, but how do you approach to there are so many things can be done, right? Within Planview, there are so many things. So do you go by the low-hanging fruit approach, or how do you go with, hey, these are the projects we will do it for
So,
this year, this quarter?
any new innovation, probably like two, three vectors, Shankar. Number one is what is the biggest bang for the buck? Look at your business priority and see where do you want to. It's not even about low hanging. Let's say I put a lot of low hanging efforts around, I don't know, finance and accounting operation. Yes, it gives you efficiency, but does it really drive your top line?
Okay.
It's not, no?
Right.
So
Yeah.
prioritize based on your biggest bang for the buck, number one. Number two, within those, look for low-hanging fruits, because once you choose an area, identify what goal you want to hit. Not just because it's easy to deploy, what goal you want to hit. And within that, the how is where you can say, okay, let me start with low-hanging fruit so we can build confidence, create more success, then you get into harder problems. Is probably how you have to think about it. The strategy, and then which is the objective, and how do you achieve it is where you start looking at low-hanging fruit versus a more harder problem. Then there is a broader cultural transformation. When you think of cultural transformation, deploying AI as an experimentation protocol for everybody and starting like a movement bottoms up to say, okay, go start using it, build hackathons, build innovation events, come up with, even if it's incremental, low hanging, that's fine, let's do it, is more to inspire the culture of AI first. But the real ROI comes when you follow this process of what is the strategy, what is the goal for that, how do you actually approach it? Does it make sense?
Yeah, definitely. No, absolutely. So you also touched upon the people aspect, Shalini. In most of the times, I think not every organization saying that no, 50% of our code, 60% of code is generated by now Gen AI, right? Um, Everyone kind of feels unsettled, like, hey, whether my job is at stake, right? So how do you handle that internally, right? Is it truly there, or how do you handle that, Shalini?
Are you talking from a people
Yeah,
standpoint?
people's standpoint, right? Yep, sorry. Just
People's standpoint on how they're adopting AI. That's your question.
yes.
You always see folks who want to run towards new technology, and you always have a middle base who's waiting and watching. And then there'll always be a set of detractors who will say why you should not change because things have really worked well across what you have. So I don't think that phenomenon changes because it's just how human beings are built. But what I see largely in every organization, including in Planview, is there is a big push on introducing basics of what does it mean to use AI to the entire organization. People are not picking and choosing. They're saying everybody think of your own job role and see how do you want to do it. So the organization is kind of putting everybody into a common benchmark from through teaching, skilling, helping through assistance and giving access to tools. I think that I'm seeing as a common thing happening in most organizations who want to adopt this. So after this, it becomes people's own interest, which drives them towards the next orbit. But there's a very, very interesting evolving dimension coming in, which is from a budgeting standpoint, from a CFO lens, from CEO lens, there's a push that's happening that, okay, I would like you all to hit higher and higher top line goals, but don't come back and ask me for this. I need X amount of headcount. Tell me, how do you do it using technology? So this is becoming a common theme because this is a great forcing function to look at not just engineering or not just a tech work, but every part of your organization in that AI lens. So I see both of these phenomena happening top down and bottoms up, and organizations are helping skill. But the reality is organizations are also in a hurry to get the best folks who understand domain, can adopt AI and start shipping out. So if anybody who's an employee is still as a detractor or somebody who's doubtful um, and sitting by the sidelines, it's not an easy place for them because the expectation from the organizations is absolutely huge, and tolerance levels to people who are not jumping on the bandwagon is probably getting lower.
Bang on, bang on. So, do you see the youngsters coming into this one easily able to adopt more AI faster, or the domain knowledge of their historical knowledge? Which one you will give more importance, Shalini, and how do you approach, when people approach you?
Nah, I've been saying this in many forums. We absolutely know the generation that's coming in right now is AI native naturally because they look it's a very natural thing. They have grown up with it or they're seeing it in a very early stages of their life. But what they lack is the maturity and enterprise level experience. And there is a set of workforce which is enterprise oriented and experienced and know what works in enterprise, etc. But then adopting AI in a more slower way, which is okay if they are being intentional about it. So they adopt AI, they look at enterprise problem, they take their own time, but come up will be a far higher output. Then there is a workforce which is probably in late stages of career and they really, really can't think in an AI way. I think that's where the issues are. So all the three is happening. Just being AI native is not enough. AI native has to converge with the context and converge with the domain. So, of course, the kind of innovations that are happening today in just large language models and so many vertical models, so many domain intensive models that are coming in probably is going to shorten some of these over time. We'll have to sit and watch, but these three dimensions remain: tech, awareness and adaptability, domain understanding, and what does it mean to build for an enterprise. I think all the three have to come together for anything meaningful.
Got it, Shalini. So now using, I think, in Planview, how much of work happening from India GCC on the growth or revenue side of it? Is it predominantly on the cost saving? I'm talking primarily from the India center, or how much of effort is going towards, I think R&D aspect is one, but beyond that, from you mentioned there are so many product, 30% of your product is coming. So when I say these products, these are all directly revenue impact, or how is it, Shalini? Could you take us through?
Shankar, that question itself, I find it, what's the right word? Probably not relevant. We are part of overall plan view,
Okay.
which means we affect all parts of the life cycle. We affect growth, we affect revenue generation, we affect the bottom line, we affect the margins because it's multifunctional. So
Okay.
in any organization, R&D is always a cost center
Right.
slash investment, right? It is cost.
Correct.
If you look
Yeah,
at,
it's an asset you are creating over a period of time. Yes.
so we are part of that. There's nothing special that India is only part of XYZ. We are part of the larger R&D. When you look at services, when you look at customer success, these are all revenue generating functions. We have a core part of it happening out of India. When you look at HR, shared services, these are all again support functions, correct? Again,
Right.
happening out of India,
Right.
which affect mostly bottom line. Then there is a core function which is selling into the market. That is where biggest top line impact happens. And that selling into the market will always be regional. It's got nothing to do with India or any other geography. You cannot centralize a sales team. The sales team has to be in the region where you're selling. And that's exactly how we are set up. So we do have a sales team which operates the India market part of it, which is again revenue generating, but everything else is in the region selling into that region. But what we do is creating a lot more of digital backbone for the entire sales operations. So that's a new move that is happening.
Okay. No, sure, Shalini. Why I'm asking this question is nowadays there are new products, even the traditional companies now using data and other things, they are creating a digital revenue apart from the core human-based sales revenue, right? So how much of effort is going on from the Planview also not dependent upon traditional sales method or the traditional sales way to a
B
digital revenue?
B2B, B2B core selling, I don't see that happening for enterprises and strategic accounts. Multi-million dollar accounts will never have only digital. Okay, that's a reality. You will always have human, and that's what stays in the region. Anything which is not enterprise, which is more growth sector, which is more small and medium, that is where we are building a huge digital backbone. And that
Okay.
digital backbone really creates the value chain digitally, which is, it could be lead generation, it could be a lead qualification, it could be the entire marketing side of the house, it could be nurturing of those leads, building the first level relationships. All of that is happening in India through a digital mode. But that becomes like a COE for supporting the entire operation. The enterprise selling motion, where you have to have a face to face seller buyer relationship, that is in the region. And that does not change anywhere. It doesn't matter whether it's Planview or any other organization. B2B enterprise selling absolutely happens from an person to person.
Yeah, I think you need to be closer to the customer where they are, right? I think whichever the region they are operating.
Customer, the buyer. Today,
Okay.
there are a lot of organizations where they may be HQ'd in, let's say, Europe, but buyer may be sitting in Bangalore. So you have to be close to the buyer. So that's another dimension which is changing. So can you be close to the buyer?
Oh, very interesting, Shali. Probably in the last few questions, right? I think with more and more your use of AI, obviously it also puts more risk, right? So what kind of control mechanism or the guardrails, whatever, because you are using sensitive data of your clients, right? Are you using AI also for that? Can you throw some light there, Shalini?
Um, I think one of the first things we did as an organization is first to design control mechanisms and compliance mechanisms, and a safe environment for us to even develop AI offerings. Because we said if we don't put the scaffolding around first, then we go all over and then we have to pull back. That is never a good experience. So we have been very intentional about it. But controls can happen through various ways. You obviously have process controls, you have access controls of what to use and where to use. You would have controls of data. Again, both from a regulation standpoint and in terms of where you access, where you host, how you process it, but also from your more compliance bodies, your ISOs, etc. Right? We're adhering to all of that, and then some country specific things. For example, if you're working with federal government in US, you have to be FedRAMP certified, irrespective of AI offering. So that requires certain set of control. So all of that. Beyond that, in let's say general code development, are we using AI to validate as well? We do. First level validation happens through AI, but again, you have a human level validation. We also are exploring the approach of can you use multiple models to evaluate each other's output. So I think some of those are evolving as mechanisms. We are absolutely focusing on building the right evals, especially for code. Because it's SaaS, you also have a host of configuration coming in on top of existing software. And that configuration, what can you do from an AI-enabled mechanism? And there, do you have better ways of putting best practice mechanisms? Because that's another way of control. So I think all of these dimensions are evolving right now.
Got it, Shalini. Surely, when it comes to AI, another critical aspect is a cost angle, right? I think we recently did an event, this one. So many of the people saying that the AI tools they naturally expect you to do some mistakes and really squeeze you or really make money out of the one mistake, right? I think there are a lot of example people say, "Hey, we forgot to do these. We lost, $100,000 or depends upon the size, like even sometimes million."
That's
How do
very
you really how do you really see that?
That
Hey,
how is never a simple answer, Shankar.
understood.
I
Yeah.
think, see, what we have to understand is AI does not fix our mistakes.
Okay.
What AI does is expose our mistakes. Whatever is the mistaken flow, it helps make it faster. So in, let's say, 10-step workflow, if I do mistakes in two, I cannot expect AI to fix those two. What it will do is it will do three, three, and two, those 8 steps, and it will show you how broken you are in the 2 steps you are not doing well. So ultimately, it still comes back within organization. Do you have all the flows set?
Hmm.
Do you know how information is flowing? If everything is given to AI, it will do it well and then it will start learning. I think the base benchmark. So it's very important. There's a lot of pre work that happens from an infrastructure layer, application layer, workflow layer, stack layer, model layer. I think we have to look at a benchmark, all of these, set the benchmark, run the model with X amount of accuracy, then you have to do. So I think this pre-work is where a lot of organizations struggle. And of course, it also includes a data layer, like I said, like the availability of data, broken sets of data, inconsistent data. So I think a lot of pre-work. In fact, I think that's where probably a lot of business is going to exist for ventures. Through all of this, yes, if you deploy AI with any of these broken or inconsistent, cost is going to skyrocket because it's all consumption based, right?
Right.
While we talk of orientation of outcomes, how many AI vendors are actually pushing for real business outcomes? They're all signing up for consumption only. So,
Right.
and if you consuming just via experimentation, you're going to rack up the bill. So, the faster way of getting AI benefits is to actually be thoughtful in the first step, which is sometimes go slow to go fast before you deploy.
Sure, sure. Well said, Sally. So, right. So, probably the last few questions, as we are in, kind of end of our the time you have given to us. So how do you decide when it comes to developing a new product? Is it like, or do you want to do it in-house, or you want to use ecosystem, like, typical build versus buy decision, right? As an organization, how do you really approach it? Uh,
I think that model is changing. In the past, people would either veer towards buy mostly and build only core, or the other way around, which is we build everything in-house. I think those models are absolutely getting disrupted today. Um, people are, there's a lot of realization in every organization that this requires a very different set of expertise, and that is in shortage. With all the job loss conversation speak about, we also know that the relevant skills today are in shortage in the real world. So I think build only 100% is probably not at all practical anymore. We have to we have to buy, but again, it will never be 100% buy as well. So it's almost buy, build, borrow. When I say borrow, it's about partnering, creating, let's say, what we used to call BOT in the past, but now a more evolved BOT. So all models are out there. It's a very hybrid world right now, Shankar. I think people are really trying to also in this environment understanding what is the core of that organization, because that core you don't want to outsource. You have to
Mhm.
do your own thinking, and once you do that, people are open to absolutely buying and partnering to build this out because speed is very much a key differentiator. If you're not at the right time in the market that you're in, you're out. Is kind of the FOMO mode that is set in, because the entry um, barriers to entry is fairly lower now for any non-incumbent to just enter the market, right? So that's going on.
Okay, got it. Because we see a lot from people, using cloud to develop certain products, which used to take it 9 months for an enterprise grade product. Now we have done it in 2 weeks, kind of stuff, right? So I understand a mature company like Planview would not, but how much you really like to use?
Hey, it depends on whether it's greenfield and brownfield. Is it deploying in a prototype mode or you're deploying in enterprise? Is it a beta mode or is it? Listen, I mean, no single statement applies to everything. So always ask the next five questions. What, how, when, why, what does it mean? So what? I think we have to ask those questions. So that statement itself may not be wrong, but the context could be very different even in an established organization.
Got it, Shani. Got it. Shani, so as a leader, you have so many priorities, right? And I'm sure you will also have a lot of questions not answered, right? So how do you handle that? Probably these are the last two questions, right? So how do you handle
Learning, I think that we don't have any unique answers for any of us. All of us are learning constantly. We have to learn, we have to be agile, and we have to keep pivoting. We have to be humble enough to know if we are wrong in our hypothesis, and we have to pivot. It's
which are your learning sources? Because there's no textbook, there's
learning
no podcast. I don't know. How do you learn?
everything. Everything. I mean, I read a lot. I listen to a lot of thought leaders. I follow a lot of thought leaders. Posts. I definitely learn from the ecosystem. There's enough interaction in the industry. We're all learning. We're all explaining. I think the one good thing I see right now in the ecosystem is nobody's holding back on their learning. They're sharing, right? Good, bad, and ugly, they're sharing, which is always excellent. You don't have to seek, oh my God, I don't have enough access is not the question right now. The information is humongous. It's about us, how much do we actually invest time and sift through noise, quality versus high quality versus low quality input, and continuously applying that to your context that only you can do. I think that's the only process. And I've always loved learning. So I think this is now learning on steroids going on.
Great. Probably on this note, Shani, what are the few things which keeps you wake up at night, right? On the professional front, what are the steps you are taking towards that?
Running a global organization means I'm largely awake 24/7. So I'm going the other way around, which is I'm amidst all of this, my sincere attempt is to restore health for myself, to
Okay.
probably focus a bit more on sleep, to probably focus on more physical and emotional and mental strength. I know this is not the answer you're looking for, but I think that's very, very important in global roles that you play right now.
No, absolutely, absolutely, Shani. Thanks a lot. It was a fantastic talking to you. A lot of insight. I'm sure our audience also would have enjoyed as much I did. So thanks a lot, Shani, for your time.
Absolutely. Thank you, Shankar. All the best.
Thank you.